Thanks for joining us for season 6 of the Hospitality Hangout, a hospitality-focused podcast where the founders at Branded Strategic share their insights and bring technology and innovation leaders that are making things happen in the industry we love. My name is Jimmy Frischling, otherwise known as the Finance Guy. I'd like to introduce my partner, Mr. Michael Schatzberg, also known as the Restaurant Guy.
Thanks for that kind and warm introduction, Jimmy. And to all those listening, feel free to call me Shatsy. And together, we are the personalities behind Branded Strategic Hospitality. We work at the intersection of hospitality, technology, innovation, and capital. And today, Jimmy, we have a phenomenal guest. We were in Vegas. We came back. It was unbelievable. CES was great. It is freezing cold here in New York. We got a great guest. But before we get into it, Jimmy, I was thinking last night while trying to doze off, watching a little Seinfeld, I was thinking about something. I was thinking about the branded marketplace. That's what I think about when I'm going to sleep. I'm
Always
thinking
do.
marketplace. Jimmy, you got to check this place out. You go to the marketplace. It is connecting every operator in the whole world with the best-in-class tech and innovation. Jimmy, have you checked it out yet?
You know, like I gotta tell you, I dabble. I've been checking. I've been dabbling.
It's unbelievable. It has best-in-class tech and innovation. And Jimmy, the best thing about this is the price. Do you know how much we're charging for something like this?
It's got to be expensive. This thing
You would
is
think
good.
it would be. But the way you would think, like what Netflix is, what $15, $16 a month. Apple
I thought
TV,
a day.
yeah, it's crazy. Free, Jimmy, free. No charge for operators. No charge for the innovative companies that are on it. It is free for everybody. And Jimmy, how are we making money? You're the finance guy. You know how to add this up. How are we making money?
Volume.
That's right. We make it up in volume. Jimmy, if you haven't checked it out, go to thebrandedmarketplace.com. Check it out. It's got great solutions for all operators. And if you want to be on the marketplace, if you have a solution that's solving problems for hospitality, get on the marketplace. Email us at marketplace@brandedstrategic.com, and we will get you uploaded very quickly and seamlessly. Jimmy, back to the show.
That was great. And that shameless self-promotion was brought to you by Chico's. Chico's Bail Bonds. You need a bail bond, go to Chico's.
You got to get a better sponsor, Jimmy.
Yeah, we're working on it day by day. All right. We are very excited about today's show. Our guest today is our friend, our partner, Lindsey Hoell, founder and CEO of Dispatch Goods. We're having a fun time with Lindsey today. She is a fantastic person, leader, and doing one of the most interesting things right now in food service, particularly in light of everything going on in the world of off-prem and takeaway and delivery. So let's jump into it. Lindsey, we'll let you take the lead. Please give us a little background about yourself and, of course, about Dispatch Goods.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jimmy. It's wonderful to be here.
What about me?
Chatsy, sorry, he did the intro. He called me so interesting. I mean, both of you, I'm super stoked to be here. It's still early in California, so I might get more energetic as the hour goes on. But
It's better that first intro call we had, which we thought it was like you were Eastern time. We did it at 9:00 Eastern time. It was like 6 in the morning. You were still sleeping.
And she was like, why are these A's, why are these A-holes actually scheduling me at 6 a.m. as a first call?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I immediately changed my Calendly availability after that. Anyways, yeah, so I'm Lindsey. I'm the founder and CEO of Dispatch Goods. My background was very unrelated. I worked in cardiac surgery for over a decade, running the heart-lung machine during open hearts. And I'm also a surfer. So I took a job as a chief perfusionist at a hospital over in Hawaii, which was not bad work if you can find it.
Wait, a chief what?
Perfusionist. That's the title of the role I used to do, where I ran
Jimmy,
the
do you know what a perfusionist is?
I believe it's got something to do with cardiac surgery.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you just say that?
Well,
it
it
sounds
does
so much cooler. And I think, by the way,
Yeah.
I think she did just say that. She just
Yeah.
used words that might have been above.
So you were a medical sales rep, and then you go into a heart and lung perfusionist?
It was the reverse. So first I worked in the clinical role, and then I started to sell the equipment that I used to use.
In Hawaii.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's right. So I worked at UCSF in San Francisco first, and then I was recruited for a position in Hawaii and moved there, mostly for the surf.
So it sounds like this was a natural move for you to get into sustainability with food.
That's right. So while I was
sounds like, from a heart-lung perfusionist right to Dispatch Goods.
that's exactly what happened. I just woke up one morning and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to start a company.
I got to tell you, if I had a nickel for every time someone left cardiac surgery and moved into the food service business, I'd have about 3 nickels.
Yeah,
actually,
maybe just one nickel.
Maybe just 1 nickel. Actually,
I was going to say, Lindsey's the only nickel you'd have.
I'd have 1 nickel.
Yeah.
Well, that is that's an incredible segue, I must say.
Yeah, a little bit of an unusual, I would say, pathway to what I'm doing now. But honestly, like I was confronted firsthand with microplastics. That's how it started. My favorite surf breaks had a lot of plastic pollution. They were often the most remote surf breaks, and the beaches. I went to one beach and it looked like the sand was rainbow colored because it was all microplastics. So I got really involved with Surfrider Foundation and a program called Ocean Friendly Restaurants, where we helped restaurants transition to more sustainable practices.
So really the whole dispatch goods, is it coming out of your love of surfing?
For sure. Yeah. It's kind of the protect what you love. And first I did it as a volunteer. And then I was spending more time at my volunteer position than I was in the operating room. And then I was like, maybe I should just do this full time. And I didn't feel like anyone was really solving the problem. It was a lot of Band-Aids. And so I started to dream about what kind of infrastructure was needed to support something more reusable, more completely circular. And yeah.
So just give us a high level, because now we know how you got into dispatch goods, but just give our listeners, what is dispatch goods?
Yeah. So basically, we're a reverse logistics infrastructure that's supporting circular packaging. What that means is we're kind of like recyclers, just we reuse instead of send stuff to another country to hypothetically be recycled, but probably not. And we did that starting with partnering with...
that sounded like you were cynical about that, by the way.
Recycling? Yeah, I am.
We send it to another country for the quote-unquote recycling.
Well, we know statistically that it's fair cynicism, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we can back that up. I think the data backs up Lindsey's assertion.
Yeah. So basically we call it internally the fourth bin, that we need a fourth bin system after trash, compost, and recycling. Compost is obviously not a bin that every town has, but in San Francisco, we're lucky enough to have it. And in what we started to build is essentially a curbside and business collection system for reusable goods that we process more locally, which also reduces, the carbon footprint of travel. And process, and then we basically redistribute packaging and other items back to businesses. We started with the restaurant industry because that's generally consumers' number one waste-related pain point is food packaging. So that's how we got there.
I got to tell you, I think it's unbelievable because I know as a consumer, I got to tell you, my recycle bin that I have in my apartment, it gets filled up so quickly just from all the food delivery that we get. I mean, New York City, we order in all the time. And Jimmy, how many meals are you ordering in a week?
I will say that the pandemic, I'm probably emptying my recycle bin every other day, if not daily. Sometimes, if I think about the containers, the packages, not just food, it's also just how much stuff comes from Amazon and the plastic that comes in those things. So, no, we're definitely busting the bin. Lindsey, I want to jump in. I do have some breaking news, and I really feel very spoiled that I get to do the breaking news.
I do breaking news.
I know, but this time it's real breaking news. So I got the nod.
I do the fake news.
You do the fake breaking news. Fake news, Jackie. Fake news. Listen, but before we jump into a quick question. What was harder, working in cardiac surgery or being an entrepreneur?
So I will say that I work a lot more hours as an entrepreneur.
Knew it.
But I think working in cardiac surgery is harder. When something
stakes might be a little higher, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. And it's honestly, you have a minute, 2 minutes to troubleshoot. I at least usually get a phone a friend if I'm in a pickle as an entrepreneur. And you didn't have that in cardiac surgery. It's
I was going to say, in the operating room, can you call somebody on the phone?
I mean, they're not
I've never seen this before.
Yeah. I mean, it does happen, but like in a real pinch that something's broken and I don't know if you guys know this, but we stop the heart during cardiac surgery and the heart-lung machine is the full support for operating the heart and lungs. And so you have the same amount of time as if your heart stopped to troubleshoot what's going on. So the stress is high. It's helped prepare me for the entrepreneurial world in that constant flow of stress I've dealt with before.
All right. I loved it. I just had to ask because, again, that nickel, I want to get my money's worth of that one nickel I have. Okay, so here we go. The breaking news that I want to share today on the Hangout. Dispatch goods has now launched on the East Coast. Listeners in New York, in Baltimore, in Washington, D.C., get ready, get excited. Well, I know your East Coast footprint, Lindsey, is really just getting going. I'd love for you to share with our audience.
That's super exciting for us.
Yep. Give a little deep dive or a deeper dive into the challenges of operating a home collection business in New York versus San Francisco and how you're navigating that. East Coast, West Coast, or as I like to say, East Coast and the other coast.
We say it in reverse on the West Coast.
Yeah, I respect that.
So we've been operating a home collection system in San Francisco for about a year and a half. And there's, of course, challenges. But in San Francisco, we have more single family homes, even though we're still kind of a metropolitan area. So right now we're launched on the East Coast. We're not doing home collection yet. That's something we'll be building out. But navigating the kind of complexities of apartments is a new challenge. And I would say that there's probably just more people eating kind of on the go and where they put things on the go than in San Francisco, where food's generally going to either offices or homes. So the home collection piece, we're going to need a much more kind of robust collection system. So that's one piece that we're working on right now.
I got to tell you, this is super exciting. I mean, the traction you guys are getting, and now you're here on the East Coast is just awesome. You know, there's something I've heard you say a few times that really gets some attention. And that is people are sick of eating food out of their trash. So when customers discover how great your containers are, do you find that they're keeping them? Are they not giving them back because they love them so much? I mean, it's like Tupperware on steroids. Tupperware basically just aged myself. I mean, does anyone have Tupperware anymore, Jimmy?
I was going to say the food, that donut was above the rim, Shatsy. It wasn't in the garbage. It was above. Right. It was
George
above.
Costanza ate the eclair, right? Right.
It was the eclair. It was on the wrapping. It was above the. It was above the rim.
Isn't there a 3-second rule in the garbage too?
I think it's about 2 seconds in the garbage as long as it's above the rim.
Yeah, as long as it's above the rim. Sorry. So are people getting your stuff and not giving it back? I know my mom would never give it back, but that's my mom. She takes sweet and low. You know, from the restaurant, you know, or the equal packs.
Yeah. Well, I would say that we have a really high return rate, but it's taken some tweaking. We used to have really kind of cutesy marketing that it was like, hey, I'm a reusable container, help me get home. And people were like, I take that as a suggestion, not a mandate. And so now our containers say like property of dispatch goods, you must return, so that there's no ambiguity. We've had to get a lot more stern in our communication.
Is there a process? Do you put like some sort of like legal disclaimer that we could prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law?
We do get, so we started off with, a phone number that you could text, and we've moved to QR codes because luckily the restaurant industry has trained customers on how to use QR codes.
Yes.
That's been a really nice thing for us. And we got a lot of questions of like, well, what happens if I don't return it? We're like, nothing. It's just bad karma. But we've got our messaging down enough that our return rate is incredibly high. It's higher than what we know from the deposit models that exist, where you get a deposit, but you have to actually go out and return something. Coming to your home and collecting something that you don't get rewarded for has wielded a higher return rate than.
I would think so. I mean, because the customer is really excited about what you're doing, and they're buying into the whole reusable. So they want you to succeed because they want this to expand.
Yeah, that's what we feel like. And people, because of our containers are so nice, again, like there's not ambiguity about whether this is trash or a reusable container. It's like very clearly a reusable container. Right. So customers know that it's not theirs. They didn't pay for it in most situations. And so it needs to be returned.
Shatsy, I think we can help Lindsey and Dispatch Goods a little bit on future podcasts, add just a little segment about shaming people. Yes. That if you see somebody with a Dispatch Good container in their home, we all need our audience and our listeners to add a little shaming. Like, really?
I agree. You're immediately go to Instagram and shame them.
Shame. I say shaming. All right. I want to talk about from a market segment perspective for a moment. It is worth noting, and I love this stuff, that $335 billion, okay, I want to be very
With a
clear,
B?
335 billion worth of packaging is wasted, and 80% of that ends up in either a landfill or lost or incinerated. And Americans throw away or use 110 pounds of single-use plastic containers every
Wait, they
year.
eat that, or they
So no, they use, they
Oh, they
throw
use it.
away,
Okay.
they use it. And to Lindsay's point earlier, and Shatsy, of why she was suspect or discerning of
That's a crazy
recycled
number, by the way, you're about to
facilities,
read.
just 8% of that is actually recycled in the U.S.
So why am I taking all my stuff and filling my container in my house if only 8% of that's gone? I should put a little bit.
Be part of the solution, Shatsy. Don't be part of the problem.
So only 8% is being recycled, really?
Be part of that. Be part of the 8%. But listen, to Lindsay, how do you see the work you're doing with Dispatch impacting these figures?
I mean, obviously, we really want to shift those numbers in that it's not $335 billion worth of packaging waste. It's $335 worth of packaging that is basically lent, so that we're starting to chip off a portion of that. You know, we talk a lot about end of life and where packaging ends up. We think a lot less about how many trees are destroyed every year to make pizza boxes. And I know that that's a very touchy subject to think about, but we're causing like deforestation also to make packaging that's used for only 12 minutes and then never used again. So Dispatch is really, we've thought about this from both the end of life as well as like the beginning of life, the entire process, and why reuse is really the clear solution. And not just from a, sustainability standpoint, but we think about the customer experience. Restaurants take so much like work and care into preparing meals. And we just don't think that the trash that you're eating out of represents the quality of the food. And so that's another place where we think reuse really has an opportunity to have an off-premise experience that's much more closely in line with what the dine-in experience would be for customers, and why we've taken such care in like the design of the packaging itself, so that it's more.
I think it's just about getting people over that stigma. You know, when I talk to people about what Dispatch Goods is doing and reuse, they're like, that's crazy. Like, reuse? I don't know, reuse. Like, when you go to a restaurant, you're eating off a plate that was washed.
Yeah.
When you go to a hotel, I mean, those sheets were washed. I mean, we're reusing stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So, but there's this stigma. But so why not in all of our takeout goods? I mean, it's crazy, right? It just needs to get people over that hump that we're reusing stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's not dirty.
I mean, there's brands like Strauss Milk is a very popular West Coast milk brand, and all of their bottles are reused. It's a $2 bottle repository. There's a lot of juice shops and beer companies that are doing the same thing. So it's something that I think, because takeout food has been served in trash for so long, that people equate it with trash, and that's where there's a cognitive disconnect between all of the other items that we are reusing in our day-to-day life. I don't think that it would be a good system if people were hand washing them and then at their homes, and then that was something that anyone could use again.
I don't think that. Yeah, right. In restaurants, we're using very potent chemicals and super high temperatures. But
that's right.
100%.
Yep. And that's why it makes sense for a third party to come in and make sure that the process is.
I love it. I love it. Look, we're talking a lot about sustainability now. So let's get into a big topic everyone's talking about. It's all over, everywhere you read, ESG. ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Let's talk about that. Can you share more about why restaurant operators, why people in hospitality should be paying attention to this and adopt an ESG program for their business? Because you don't hear about this in restaurants a lot.
Yeah. We've given this so much thought because of the fact that, short answer is restaurants should care because your customers care. And at the end of the day, we know that customers care for a couple reasons. One, we have an integration with Square. So we have a lot of data from our restaurants that are integrated with Square. And we have been able to track now that restaurants, once they partner with Dispatch Goods, their top line revenue grows. So the proof is in the pudding, really, that adopting more sustainable practices, improve, your customer experience, and then they'll show up.
That should be enough right there. If you say we use dispatch goods and repeat business and margins go up or people come back, that's enough right there, right?
Yep.
Wait a second.
Exactly.
Let's play that out. We love data, especially when the data proves our thesis or is proving success. So this relationship with Square and the tracking you're doing, what can you share about that in terms of the findings? What do you know about the customers pre and post utilization of dispatch?
Yeah, so it's been a really kind of like wild year in the restaurant industry. So the data is, I would say, more the data was more impressive, data was really impressive, I guess, to start. Our very first restaurant to use dispatch goods as the default packaging option is kind of a very well-known restaurant in San Francisco called Zuni Cafe. And before they launched, to the week after they made the announcement, we were on the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle. So of course they got a lot of PR for being the first, but they doubled the packaging that they were going through after launching with dispatch goods based on the impact of switching to reusable packaging. Another restaurant that we launched with in the East Bay increased their top line revenue by 35% after launching with dispatch. So it's really an incredible experience for us to see that customers are showing up to support restaurants. And we had an inclination because we also work with direct-to-consumer companies that are doing meal delivery services. So, Imperfect Foods is a big customer of ours.
Let's jump into some other partnerships. Let's talk about a successful partnership with DoorDash. And when you first launched with DoorDash, your packaging was called the avocado upcharge.
Yeah.
I love the avocado upcharge. Now it's just built into the order. What kind of feedback can you give us now on that partnership and what customers are saying and how they're feeling?
Yeah, it was really exciting to launch with DoorDash because we were basically an add-on item for our restaurant partners, and we worked with DoorDash to create that modifier for restaurants.
So they had check a box if they wanted reusable kind of thing.
That's right. And it was an add-on fee. It was $1.99. And so we doubled, basically we were capturing about double what we predicted. So from our perspective, it was a really big success. What we found that restaurants relayed to us is, I don't want this to just be for a portion of my customers. I'd rather just have this completely replace my packaging. And so
it's not even an option. It's just, this is how we do it.
Yeah, some restaurants still keep it as an option. I would say that for fast casual.
Can we shame those restaurants? Can we give its names and we'll shame them right now?
No, it's great. Some want to dip their toes in before taking the full plunge.
All right, we'll shame them now, but give us a couple months. We're going to shame them.
But increasingly now about 70% of our volume's driven from restaurants that have completely replaced their packaging with reusable, which is really awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I got to tell you, I order all the time, and I know that on some of the platforms they have a box if you don't want any packaging. But a lot of times they still send it, and I got to tell you, they don't send you if you order 2 entrees, they don't send you 2 meal kits or 2 5-in-1s or whatever you want to call them. They send you 7 or 10. They just give you so much stuff.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
We always ask our customers that we're doing collection from, what is your waste pain point? What are you holding on to? Every single person in America, I'm convinced, has a drawer full of utensils that they didn't want and now have accumulated in their home. And they're like, I don't know what to do with all these utensils.
Yeah, you feel bad about throwing it out. But
everyone just has their hoarder's drawer.
And not for nothing. But don't most people have silverware in their house at this point?
Right.
I mean, is it?
And offices do.
It's very rare occasions that you really need that really well-made knife and fork that they give you that inevitably snaps anyway. And the napkin that's the size. I mean, it's like a Bev nap, right, Jimmy? I mean, what do you do with that stuff?
I agree. We check the box of don't deliver the utensils all the time. We always get utensils. I think they should invert that. Check a box if you want.
And maybe we won't get it.
Right. And then maybe we won't. Listen, before we move on, I want to share that last year, Dispatch replaced 367,000 items from the waste system. That comes out to one item for every 2 San Franciscans. Siskins?
Is it San Franciscans?
Yeah.
See, that's, by the way, that's why it's
New Yorkers.
New Yorkers sounds better. It rolls off the tongue better than a San Franciscan.
Roll off my tongue better. What is the goal for 2022, and what is next for Dispatch?
Yeah. So last year was our first full year in operation, so we feel that's a pretty exciting kind of first year number. We're pretty confident we'll hit over $1 million this year. I think 2 million is definitely feasible. So that's our big goals from a number standpoint. And then what's next for San Francisco? I mean, we're focused right now on the East Coast, and so, Dispatch, we're focused on the East Coast. So we'll continue to build out our business on the West Coast. We have grown our team. We've doubled our team in the last couple months, so that's super exciting. And then growing on the East Coast is a big opportunity for us. And we know that there's plenty of trash to be replaced. And we feel like we're the women for the job.
I love it. And listen, we Schatz and I, native New Yorkers.
Well, I'm from Jersey, Jim. You remind me all the time. You can't say I'm a native New Yorker.
Oh, yeah, actually, that's true. But we certainly, to our fellow New York and tri-state or East Coast operators, we want to help not only Dispatch reach that goal of 1 million items removed from the waste system, but we want the East Coast to outperform the West Coast. Tall order, I know, but let's do this. Let's do this, East Coast. All right, listen. It turns out that while we launched this podcast because we like talking to people and we like controlling the mic, we learned along the way that sometimes our guests have questions for us. So let's kick off our talking back. Lindsey, we're going to let you take the microphone. You can ask us any question you like. Nothing is off the table. Let's go.
All right, great. So I can't help but notice that sometimes I'm outnumbered in a male to female ratio as being a woman entrepreneur in the restaurant tech industry. Curious if you guys can think of any way to help encourage more women starting businesses and tackling some of these, problems or issues or opportunities that we see in the space. And if you've seen any reasons why there's, not been as much women in roles like I'm in.
It's a fantastic
yeah, it's a great question. You know what? I immediately go right to Jimmy on this one.
I was like, I feel like
I know I'll say something wrong and get shamed. I know I'll say something wrong. How could you say that, sexist?
No, I think it's a great question, and I'm actually very happy to attempt an answer. And I would say that we were very proud when we were introduced to you and your team to have a woman-led company. We have made quite a large number. We've made a number of investments, and you were the first woman-backed company.
Never forget your first, Jimmy.
And you never forget your first. And actually now we have a second.
Yay, that's awesome.
You have a second.
We do have a second. And I would say, from a macro to micro perspective, first of all, we believe this is a tremendously fragmented industry and a very diverse industry. And we want to have a diverse leadership team across the companies we work with, not because it's a nice thing to do, but because it's an important thing to do. We believe it will result in our being better stewards of capital to have decision makers and executives that are more reflective of the of just our population and otherwise. I also think there is data and empirical evidence actually about even about women's decision making, and I've seen a number of analyses that even talk about when it comes to stock picking, even the outperformance of female or women portfolio managers. I'm sure there's enough data or statistics to argue either point, but what's very clear to me is we believe there is value in the diversity of the CEOs that we are backing, and we're thrilled to make you the first. I will also just add that the industry itself that we're in, the hospitality industry, the food service industry, has long, as others have been, somewhat male dominated. And a lot of the CEOs we work with grew up in the industry, and it's one of the things we really like is to find people that know the pain points, understand the workflow, and have built solutions that have less friction. So to some extent, the CEOs that are building these tech solutions for operators, since it was a more male-dominated community, they're the ones who now dominate the tech space. But that's clearly changing and emerging. And if we can get more people to leave cardiac surgery and get off the beach of Hawaii, we might even do better. But in all seriousness, we are thrilled to be working with you in Dispatch. We are thrilled to have a second female CEO, and we want to encourage both women and persons of color to really say that this is an industry now that is affording more, I guess, opportunities than we've ever seen it before. This is no longer a job that is about waiting tables or bartending or cooking. Those are critically important jobs, but there is now a real career path that will rival any other industry in terms of engineering and computer science and marketing and sales and executives that are going to lead businesses that we think is a massive industry. So that was a much longer answer than I've ever
Jimmy,
given,
that was short for you. That was very short for you.
But I thought the question was warranted a thoughtful answer.
I think it could have been a whole podcast on that question.
But it's a great question. And I have to say, Lindsey, while we like to joke around on the show, we were really excited. We did not, and for just transparency, we're not just friends with Lindsey. We said at the top of the show, she is our partner. We have invested and deployed capital into Lindsey and her company, and we were not looking to let's say to make the decision just find someone, a female CEO, and invest with. But we loved your company, and I have to say we were not upset that we had essentially found you or found each other, and that you were in fact the first female-led CEO.
Well, Jimmy, I remember. I got to tell you, I remember going out to Minnesota. I met Lindsey at the Farm to Fork program with Techstars. And I remember calling Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, you sent me out here to find a female CEO. I think I found her.
There you go.
I think I found her. There are 20 companies here. There's one female CEO. I think I got her. So that was a real inside story there.
Yeah, there you go. Get it.
I didn't even know what Dispatch Goods did. I didn't care. I'm like, Lindsey, female. Jimmy, we got the company. Now, all kidding aside, yeah, we're having a good time with Lindsey and Dispatch Goods and everything you're doing. All right, switching gears a little bit. Listen, we always joke about hospitality being very slow to embrace technology. We came up with a new segment. Are you ready? Which came first? Which came first is basically a segment, okay? Are you ready for which came first?
Yep.
Okay. Which came first, Lindsey? The car wash or the dishwasher?
Oh. The dishwasher.
Wow. Look at that. The first dishwasher to be granted a patent was invented in 1850 by Joel Houghton. It was a wooden box that was used to hand turned a wheel to splash water on dirty dishes, and it had scrubbers, and that was the first practical dishwasher. But that was the one that got the patent. The first practical dishwasher was invented by a woman named Josephine Cochran. And
That's
she
awesome.
built this in the shed behind her house in Illinois in 1886. So, man, that's been going around a long time. And the first car wash, not till 1914.
It's amazing. Women love starting dishwashing companies, apparently.
Yeah. So the first car wash business was 1914, and that was called the automated laundry. And they pushed cars through a tunnel while people scrubbed them. So dishwashers, 1850. Who would have thought? Oh, Jimmy, I didn't even give you a chance to guess. Jimmy, what came first, car wash or dishwasher?
Dishwashers.
Jimmy always gets it right. Always gets it right. Very, very interesting. Look at Lindsey. Immediately got that right.
Yeah, and unfiltered, I'm not sure I would have gotten that right, but thankfully you didn't ask me until after Lindsey answered the question. You confirmed she was right, so now I can pretend to say, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, what's her name?
1850, and I can't believe it. I don't think the outhouse was invented yet, Jimmy.
Well, we'll save that for another podcast. Okay, time for our crystal ball moment, a chance for all of our guests to put on their Kreskin or Miss Cleo hats and predict the future. Lindsey, how do you see restaurants and dining 2 years from now in relation to hospitality and technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think for better or for worse, off-premise dining is going to continue to surge. And so, from what we're seeing, we're getting a lot more connections with kind of cloud kitchen concepts and restaurants that are starting without a brick and mortar space. So I think that there's going to be more and more kind of exciting development in that space. We hope that single-use plastic, is no longer the stronghold in packaging, and that more sustainable option shift. And I would say that trends are following our prediction there. So in 2 years, I hope that, in the 10 largest cities, dispatch goods is a viable option for restaurant owners.
Well, I got to tell you, it sounds to me like, A, I agree that off-prem will continue to grow, and B, that's a good thing for dispatch goods, as long as it's reusable. As long as it's reusable.
Yep.
Let's jump right into branded quickfire. I am going to ask Lindsey 5 lightning round questions. I want you to answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't think too hard. Are you ready?
Yes.
Favorite beach to go surfing?
Ocean Beach, San Francisco.
Where are you getting dinner from tonight?
Oh, we have a new restaurant partner in the Sunset, Lale.
What is your favorite food city in the world?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I would say New York.
Jimmy, East Coast, New York. See that?
My sister and brother both live there. So.
San Franciscan, loving New York.
You know what the main difference is that there's, I think, higher density of restaurants per person. So you can get into like really good restaurants in New York where you got to book 2 months in advance in San Francisco.
Okay, keep telling yourself that. Where is your favorite place to travel?
Nicaragua, really good.
Surfing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
If you were to challenge Jimmy or I to a game of Yahtzee, who would you have better odds of beating?
Oh, this is tough. I don't know who's a better gambler, but Yahtzee is a bit of a numbers game from a strategic standpoint.
Well, you know where she's going with this, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think I would take on Schatzberg for that.
Yep. All right, we're back on track. Thanks, Lindsey.
Thanks,
we're back on
because last week I think I beat Jimmy, and we're back on to Jimmy's like, I don't know, 28-1 or something like that.
We are back on track. Thank you, Lindsey. Listen, away from picking me as your Yahtzee, the harder to beat, we want to thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We love what you're doing. We appreciate you sharing some great insights today with our audience, and we really also love what the work you're doing to support this industry, not just during this time, but really going forward. You're doing important things, and we believe in it. We're proud to be your partner and look forward to a long and prosperous relationship together. If you'd like to get in touch with Lindsey directly, you can email the podcast team.
Jimmy, I have her phone number if you want. I do have Lindsey's cell because I remember we hung out in Minnesota.
Yep, it's 888-555-5555. No, if you want to get in touch with Lindsey directly, reach out to the podcast team at podcast@brandedstrategic.com, and we'd be happy to make the introduction. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in with us. We know there are literally hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and the fact that you choose to hang out with us is something we value and appreciate. Please join us next week.
We also can't believe it, Jimmy.
Every time I look at the numbers going up, I'm like, really? Okay, we'll take it. Listen, next week, we're going to welcome our guest, another friend, another partner, Mr. Scott Siegel, co-founder and CEO of Curbit. In the spirit of a lot going on off-prem, delivery, takeaway, pickup.
Yep. Everyone's loving pickup now.
We're talking pickup with our new partner, Mr. Scott Siegel. And finally, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast. You don't miss out on any of the exciting guests we have coming up in the future. And better yet, please invite a friend to hang out with us the next time. So until then, with great appreciation to Lindsey and her team, this is Jimmy Frischling, your finance guy, signing off and sending it back to my boy Schatzberg.
It's Schatzberg, a.k.a. Restaurant Guy, saying thank you for all hanging with us. Lindsey, this was awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.